and welcome to my presentation. My name is Myrna Trevizo. The topic of my presentation today is the injustices that are faced in the world by those that cannot fend for themselves. The reason that this topic is useful for you is because it allows you to reflect on the fact that sometimes people make decisions in life that may or may not be right in the eyes of others. We are going to talk about three things. These are, first, how the circumstances that one finds himself in sometimes forces people to make life-altering decisions. Secondly, how did Lenny's actions force George to make a decision that would also alter his own life? And finally, we're going to look at a hero in the literature of Mice and Men, authored by John Steinbeck in the year of 1937. The modern literary period is the period in which writers represented the ideas of Darwin in their works. Survival of the fittest was the theme of many works, as in Steinbeck's of Mice and Men. It also portrayed the relationships groups of people had with one another based on their social status. Due to the grim situation that the nation found itself in, many people were distrustful of institutions and looked inside themselves for answers to many of life's questions. Many of the writers of this time include John Steinbeck, who wrote of Mice and Men, Tortilla Flat, The Pearl, The Grapes of Wrath. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby, and Ernest Hemingway, who wrote A Farewell to Arms, The Old Man and the Sea, and The Sun Also Rises. As this was also a time of social change, minorities took the opportunity to make themselves heard through poetry and literature, such as Langston Hughes and W.E.B. Du Bois. The historical period of this time. During this time, there were many historical events that changed the world in devastating ways, as well as technological advances. Several wars were fought during this period. For example, World War I and World War II. Hitler came into power in 1933. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and women's suffrage, 1918, and the Great Depression. Some technological and industrial advances include the atomic bomb, 1945, the invention of the Model T by the Ford Company, the first flight of the Wright brothers in 1903, television was invented, as well as stainless steel. In John Steinbeck's, we look at a literary hero. George Milton is considered to be more of a tragic hero. George makes the decision to care for his best friend Lenny, who is mentally disabled. He shows strong devotion, love, and compassion for his friend. One of George's attributes is his willingness to accept the challenge of caring for Lenny. George is a strong and courageous man. This is demonstrated when he is forced to make the decision to kill Lenny after Lenny accidentally kills Curly's wife. He knows that Lenny is a threat to society and that he will eventually suffer. In making this decision, George gives up his own dreams of owning his own farm. His life has been a struggle because of Lenny. During this time, George becomes aware of the injustices that people inflict on those that are weaker than them. In conclusion, in this presentation, my objective was to discuss, after reading the novel, the circumstances and injustices that George was confronted with that led him to make the decision to end his friend's life, to save him from the suffering he would eventually endure. Any questions?